data can be used in so many different ways. And that's probably understood by data scientists and by machine learning experts and people who understand what Shannon entropy is. You know, and they are slowly teaching us, right, how valuable the data is and can be used in the context of our work. And how many people on the planet understand this now, right, in our industry? And how should they be teaching the rest of us? How can we achieve that?
I think that's a great question. And you know, when you talk about data as a material you use to build something else, you look at the data out there that exists mostly in the public domain is, I don't know, I wouldn't say it's totally useless, but its value is really, you have to make the value from it. Because like you were saying, say you were doing a kinase assay or something, if you have a series of compounds tested in different assays, you're going to get different answers. And how would you use those to make a model that's useful?
So, Andrea, you mentioned something earlier about it's actually what's turning out to be also valuable is the relationship of one data point to another, maybe even more so than the individual pieces of data. Could you speak to that a little bit?
Yes, I think that now we are shifting from really how we define and think about the data itself. No? Because in the last couple of years, we use data as tables. So we are interested in the number as it is. Now we are interested in the relationship between the numbers. And so we move to tables in the DB, in knowledge graph, and graphical database. And actually is how we think on the data. So we think about relationship between things. It's the same way a machine learning use the data. Start on the relationship, transformer, do find correlation in the text or in the data or in the graph. So this change, I think, is fundamental because then we focus on a part of the value of the data, that is the relationship, that was unmet in the past, and open up a new world of enhancing the data itself if you put in a context.
So it must be so much data in pharma companies sitting there in archives, and if we could use that data.
Yeah, and if sorry, Carol, to interrupt you, but as the more people in the community understand the multi-purposes to which it can be put, there would be maybe further impetus to curate finally, right, the legacy data many large companies have, and to work with others who can help them really extract the most value from it, or put it in the public domain so that everyone can use it in a pre-competitive sense. Do any of us get that question from our colleagues in large companies, or what's the way we can take that question to them in a way that they understand is beneficial to them and to everyone?
I think that some have took this stand to indeed share the data, work with not only other, players in the industry, but also with universities and associate with public domain research to be able to share the data, to produce it also. And some others are probably not yet have not been convinced that this has tremendous value even to them. Right?
And you mentioned these consortia, right, that are emerging. It's maybe perhaps through those working together, just kind of the expansion of what people are sharing and realize that they get back more in return for doing that.
Yeah, I think it's pretty stunning that the large pharma companies like Merck and Pfizer have agreed to form the Melody collaboration, right, the consortium, because if there's anybody that's going to be worried about their intellectual property, it's those guys. And they've found a way to share the data in a way that's useful, but they keep the proprietary nature of it.
Yeah, as a starting point.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and that's what really can go further is what I'm hearing from you.
I think it's technological. So once we are able to generate infrastructure that allow sharing the information but do not reverse, but the real problem is making reverse engineering from the data. So if we set up infrastructure that I think today are really feasible, where you are guaranteed that your data are not reverse engineered against you, then the added value of generating global models is much more than the risk of exposing potential IP.
Totally agree.